First question will be Chris Nee from Noles 247.
Hey, Alex.
What's up, Nee? Nee, you got that ceiling fan on high. Is that a ceiling fan? Okay, you muted. Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Nee, you got that ceiling fan on high.
How did the quarterbacks do in general this evening? What did you guys kind of put on their plate? How did they respond to what you guys asked them to do?
Man, yeah, we put the whole gamut on them, you know, and we got to learn how to operate with some tempo. We got to know how to take ownership in it. I think a lot of times, you know, sometimes, you know, when you get in your first scrimmage, sometimes they're used to the segmented parts of practice. When you get to these parts, those segments roll randomly. You might end up in a third and long. You might end up in a second and short. You might get in the red zone, and it's on play 12. So I just think, you know, we got to manage the situations as they come because we're starting to separate. Like when you work a situation in practice, I thought they've been good. I thought in the game kind of snuck up on them. But I think, you know, overall, you know, we got some leaps and bounds to go. But I think that they were solid, but I think we just got to do a better job of seeing those situations and tackling them in the moment. But when we can't take negatives, when we got to do this, and you know, a couple of things like that.
Hey, Alex. Coach mentioned that the quarterbacks were also live a little bit today, specifically for someone like Brock Lynn, who hasn't had much live action. What was that to see his response to seeing some of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I believe Brock went live in the spring too. So I think it's good because, you know, it gets for real life. And not only for Brock, for everybody on the team, whether it be, you know, pursuing the quarterback, whether it be protecting a live body that you got to make sure you keep upright and then just a tag off in practice. And also Brock making quick decisions. And also, you know, he's a dual threat, so being able to use his legs. So, you know, and the good thing about Brock, he's a tough guy, so he wants that smoke. Like, if you let Brock go live every time, he'll be all about it. So we got to protect him away from himself. But it's good to get him in there and see him operate with that live jersey and you know, play ball.
Coach, well, I guess both the coaches, Norvell and Fuller, mentioned Jaheim Bell and Kyle Morlock having nice plays, specifically about Jaheim, his ability to break tackles. And did you see his, like, competitive spirit, I guess, raise it all going into that inside Doak, or is that just how he's been all the time?
Jaheim's a competitor, man. We've seen it in real live ball games. We've seen it out there. He's tough to tackle. He's a competitor, you know, and physical kid. So I think, you know, physical player. But, you know, Jaheim gonna be fine. You know, he wanted it. You know, he wanted to go live too. So, you know, he got some toughness about him that's really displayed and got to show up today. So I think that was good for him to show that.
Hey, Coach. This evening, Norvell told us earlier that Keziah Holmes broke open a nice run. Also, Rodney Hill, what do you think about the run game this evening?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the big plays show up, which has been consistent with the offense. We got, you know, what I saw was like when you get in practice and you get those 3 and 4 and 5 play rotation sets and you go 1s, 2s, and then you got the other side swapping 3s and 4s. You know, I think this was the first time we got into some 8, 9, 12+ yard drives, and then we got to know how to operate once we get down there. So, you know, you heard about the goal line stop and you know, getting in the red zone and sputtering out and having to settle for field goals. We just got to do about the big plays showed up. We got to do a good job of the routine plays and switching gears once we cross over to that play 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of a drive because, you know, when you start at the 25 and you get to the 1, you probably ran 12 plays, and we got to play stronger then than we did before. So I think the big plays did show up when they were clean and they broke some tackles. But, you know, once we get toward the end of the drive and get to that pretty much that tough time when you got to decide, you know, mental focus, fatigue, all that stuff. Every old injury is popping up on you, every anxiety. Like, we got to know how to finish drives in those moments.
Hey, Alex, before we talked to you before the preseason about the offensive line. You mentioned the depth is something you were comfortable with. I guess, how have you seen that kind of manifest itself through 9 practices? And are you guys getting closer to kind of sorting out what you think the starting 5 will look like, or is that still developing?
Yeah, we got some good competition going, but the good thing about it is everybody's getting reps. And, you know, and we're starting to see some guys really kind of, you know, go from wide-eyed to tight-eyed and focus and seeing edge pressures and seeing movements and understanding the situation. That'll start coming because once you get past this part, the installation slows down, so you get to kind of sharpen those tools. But, you know, overall, I think we've got some good rotations, good work. So it'll be interesting to see. You know, we got some good battles going on. We got some guys bouncing back and some guys that'll get back feeling good. So, you know, I'm excited about that group and seeing how far they can come once we start to sharpen and kind of slow the install down, where now we can kind of see what those guys can do.
you talked about, I guess, Brock, his toughness going live. I guess how evaluate the quarterback play as a whole tonight. I don't know, I guess, how much Jordan did, but how did those guys as a whole perform?
I think it was solid. I mean, you seen some guys pick up some big-time third downs. They took what the defense was giving them, but understanding situations. Like we had, a couple of times where we might have took a negative when it wasn't time to take a negative. We might had a guy that we had to get the ball to on the screen or something like that, and we got to find a way to get that, or we got to check a protection or check a run. So, overall, I believe it was a solid performance, but we're looking to take that next step to ownership of the offense, whether it be dictating and controlling the play, speeding up the tempos, watching the clock. We had a couple of, procedure penalties, understanding where guys need to be before we get snapped the ball and, taking advantage of that kind of stuff. I want to see that next step take, which I think, you saw flashes of it and they did a solid job, but, you just want to see that ownership in it. And I think as that continues to grow, like I talked about with the offensive line, with the slowing of the install and the more ownership, and also as coaches, we can't babysit and hold their hand anymore. Sometimes the hardest thing for a coach to do in practice is let something happen that before it happens. Sometimes you got to let them mess it up and then go afterward. So, I got to do a better job of letting those guys play in practice and then going to correct them before we kind of give them, holding their hand and kind of giving them a little bit of cheat code.
We'll go back to SM.
Yeah, Alex, Keon Coleman has shown his big playability at first few practices. How did he look tonight? How did some of the new guys like a Destin Hill or the newcomers look? Hakeem Williams, how they look?
And just competitors. Hakeem come a long way. I've really been proud of, him going from, his jump from the spring to now has really been evident. I've been proud of his progress. If he continues to go, he'd be able to help us pretty good, and pretty quickly. So I've liked his progress. Fat is a competitor. Fat and Keon are very similar when you talk about competitive spirit, toughness, wanting to contact, wanting to play, no fear and all that kind of stuff. Those guys have been phenomenal. So those guys jumping right in and being able to fight through the fatigue of camp, because like that receiver position, them legs, you talk about the days we were in the row being in Jacksonville, the Heat, those legs start getting heavy on them. So you're starting to see their toughness and competitive take over as we put them in tough situations. But I've been proud of that group and the way they've been coming along and fighting through some toughness.
Go back to Brendan.
Following up on Essen's question about Keon Coleman, Coach Norvell spoke really highly about his ability to grasp the offense in a short period of time. I guess, what have you seen from him in terms of like preparation, studying, things of that have allowed him to catch up pretty quickly?
Keon's one of those players that when he looks at you, he looks through you. His eyes do not leave you. And we have these deals at night where we give them different football situations where we're talking about whether it be, different type of situations that come up in the game, and we got their notebooks out, and we do this every night, and he is locked in. He's answering questions before they pop up. He loves the game, and he loves it all the way around. So to see him really see situations where he understands, okay, I can't do this, I can't do that, and to see him talking to those younger guys about, all right, you need to do this and do that, like different situational type of deals. He is a focused. You've been around him. Y'all talk to him. He knows what he wants to do. He got his mind made up, and he has been, really grasping it and picking it up, which, jumped him, in there pretty early.
Next would be Aslan Hazarmandi from War Camp.
Coach, I know there's a return to play plan in place for Robert Scott. How pleased have you kind of been with the early production of him, and what has Bless Harris just kind of meant to you in this line, just with the way that he's been able to progress after what he had to deal with last year?
I'm going to start with Bless. You talk about adversity. A guy, sustained an injury that's kept him out all season, and he jumps right back in, and he's rolling good, and he's rolling with the ones and getting a lot of good work, which he was a starting tackle last year coming into year one. So I've been proud of his progress. Still some things we got to clean up of him, ownership of his position, all right, let's own the position. Too many times I'm seeing you lapse a little bit. I'm seeing 30 good flashes and two negatives. We got to get rid of those negatives. But I've been pleased overall with Bless's approach, the way he's coming out to work. Bless is a blue collar, lunch pail, doesn't say much, just comes out and go to work kind of guy. And I've appreciated his approach and how he's attacking it and in camp, keeping his body prepared to play. Rob will be fine. Rob has played a lot of football around here. So we're just more being protective of Rob ourselves, but Rob will be ready to go. He's got out there and got some work. He's doing fine. So I've been really pleased to see him ahead of schedule and how he's putting it. But Rob can do it. You watch him at the end of the year. I was glad we was able to take care of him, because if it's up to Rob will always go.
All right, last question. We'll go to Ira.
Could you just talk about Keziah a little bit more? Just, we didn't, last year he was going against the scout team a lot, and then, he was with the scout team a lot, and then in the spring he wasn't always available. Like, what are things you liked about him? Kind of what does he bring to that group?
I saw him progressing as we went, because like there was one run that hole opened up, and I think he got tripped up a little bit and got like 5. And I saw like, all right, his decision to say, all right, that's not happening again. So from here on out, I don't think there was another run where he went backwards. It was always forward and advancing the ball, and then the big plays started to show up. He's a tough runner. When he got out in the open field and got out pretty good, I like to see him open up and run a little bit. That was good to see the big man rolling, but he's been that tough in his back for us, man, and getting those short yardage situations. So I've been pleased with his focus level too, because he's picked it up pretty well too. Transitioning from a guy that was on scout team and having to come here now and pick it all up, he's picked it up really well, coming in late and things like that. So, watch him operate, and we're not spoon feeding him. I mean, we're putting it in, and we're installing as if we have a veteran team, and he's really came along very similar to Keon, where he can go operate because he knows what to do. So I've been proud of his focus, his approach, and to see him in live action, that was very pleasing to see. Now we still got to fix the consistency of, all right, now we're out there for a while. We can't be tapping and subbing and all that kind of good stuff, but that'll come as we continue to ramp up these rep counts.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.